It's been a whirlwind few days for crypto. Bitcoin and Ether giving back some of the gains after getting a boost overnight as President Trump expressed support for a U.S. crypto reserve over the weekend. Our next guest is one of Wall Street's most vocal Bitcoin bulls, recently meeting with members of the House Financial Services Committee to discuss what he calls his digital assets framework to help the U.S. become the global crypto leader. Joining us now in a CNBC exclusive is Strategy co-founder, executive chairman Michael Saylor. Strategy announcing this weekend it delivered a Bitcoin gain of $2.6 billion so far this year. Michael, it's paid to keep buying no matter what. My question is, how much are you involved? Because I know you've met with members of the Trump administration, cabinet, family members, I think the president himself. So are you involved in advising around this strategic crypto reserve?
I've met with a bunch of senators on the Democratic and the Republican side, a bunch of Congress people, a few members of cabinet, a few members of the administration, and anybody that wants to talk. You know me, for the last 4.5 years, I'm willing to talk about Bitcoin to anybody, anywhere in the world, every day.
Yes, and we appreciate that, talking to our audience about it. So were you surprised that in the announcement over the weekend, the president mentioned other smaller coins like XRP, Solana, and Cardano, as well as Bitcoin for the strategic crypto fund?
I'm not surprised. I mean, there's no way to interpret this other than this is bullish for Bitcoin and is bullish for the entire U.S. crypto industry. You know, there are conservatives that view the right path forward is just a Bitcoin-only policy because Bitcoin is a commodity, an asset without an issuer, a neutral asset, and there's no controversy. But the president's adopted a more liberal economic policy, and that's his right. He's president of the United States.
Yeah, no, I'm sure you would have preferred it, though, if it was a Bitcoin-only fund.
You know, I believe that the best thing for the country is to move forward with an enlightened, progressive policy toward digital assets. I think it's worth $100 trillion to the United States, and ultimately there's 4 different assets that people need to come to grips with. A digital commodity like Bitcoin, an asset without an issuer, backed by digital power. A digital currency like a stable coin backed by a fiat currency equivalent. A digital security, an asset with an issuer backed by a stock or a bond so we can tokenize Wall Street. And then a digital token, which is an asset with an issuer that's backed by digital utility. I think everybody's trying to come to grips with that taxonomy. And as the market gets more educated, we're going to see more progressive, constructive policy engagement.
But as it relates to the crypto fund, I guess, one thing people are going to try to figure out, and what the White House is going to have to explain, is why we need that. I get that you think the price of Bitcoin is going up sharply, and you've definitely put your money where your mouth is, but it is still a speculative asset. So is it just about investment gains for the U.S. government, or is there another strategic reason, say, like oil, we have that, where we would need this?
The key to keep in mind is that Bitcoin is not competing with the dollar. It's competing with international real estate, global equities, expensive money managers on Wall Street, and any long-range investment that somebody makes. And so right now we're about $2 trillion in Bitcoin. It's going to 20 trillion, then it's going to 200 trillion, then it's growing 20% a year. And that capital is coming from overseas. It's coming from China, from Russia, from Europe, from Africa, from Asia, from the 20th century to the 21st century. So what's compelling about it is if the United States takes a position in the emerging crypto economy, if it buys up 10, 20% of the Bitcoin network, we're going to pay off the national debt. And so why wouldn't that be in the interest of the United States?
I guess the question would...
A future where digital assets dominate conversations amongst global powers is close to reality, as Michael Saylor, the co-founder of Strategy Inc., receives a prestigious invitation to the Digital Asset Summit at the White House, hosted by President Donald Trump. Now, the summit is set to be a landmark event in the financial world, with key industry leaders and policymakers congregating to chart the future of digital currencies. Saylor's attendance is thrilling, especially after his bullish predictions and statements on Bitcoin. Welcome back to Investocracy Crypto.
We're dealing with instruments that historically, Michael, have had drawdowns of you name it. I mean, 20, 40, 50%. how much risk or what would that do to sentiment if, in fact, that was a paper loss, even momentarily, for the government?
I don't think anybody's ever lost money in the Bitcoin network holding 4 years. The United States' best investments are Alaska, Mexico, California, and Louisiana, and Manhattan. We're still holding them hundreds of years later. It's a nation state. So presumably, you want to buy Bitcoin, you want to hold it for 100 years. You know where the future's going. The AIs, the foreigners, the Europeans, the 20th century capitalists, they're all into cyberspace. And so the United States has the ability to buy this for a nickel and pay off the national debt. It'll be the greatest economic program of the 21st century for this country.
How do you think it gets funded?
I mean, I think that I'd leave that to the president's working group. They'll eventually decide what they want to do and the scale they want to do it. There are a dozen people on it, the head of the Treasury, the SEC, the CFTC, Commerce, the Attorney General. The president, I'm sure, will opine. Yeah. I'm sure you'll have leadership from Tim Scott and French Hill, both the Republicans and the Democrats. Everybody's going to have their opinions. It's above my pay grade to decide. But what I would say is this. We bought Manhattan for 60 guilders. It was a good trade. We bought Alaska for $6 million. It was a good trade. We paid $40 million for 75% of this country. It's a good trade. We can afford it. We should buy the future.
I mean, and you've done this before, you've talked about this before, but comparing a cryptocurrency digital asset that is still considered highly speculative to American cities and states.
Well, Bitcoin's not highly speculative to the 500 million people in the crypto economy. It's the best performing asset in the past 15 years and generally the best performing asset every single year. My company's gone from a $250 million investment to almost a $50 billion position in 48 months. So clearly, there's...
Saylor predicts that Bitcoin's market capitalization may skyrocket to almost $200 trillion. Following this statement, Bitcoin saw a 3.85% increase, where its price surged from $65,000 to $67,000 within an hour. His declaration, accompanied by Strategy Inc.'s intriguing strategic maneuvers, is generating waves across the financial ecosystem, hinting at transformative tides in the world of digital assets.
President Trump announcing the creation of a strategic crypto reserve. Mackenzie Sagalos joins us now with all the details. Mackenzie, it's interesting because in this Truth Social post over the weekend, he cited his January executive order, and that seemed to ignite the rally.
No, it did. And this is really building upon what he said in January. He says that this new national crypto reserve will include Bitcoin, Ethereum, and a trio of high volatility tokens, Solana, XRP, and Cardano. He's calling it a move to elevate the industry after what the president described as years of corrupt attacks under the Biden administration. Now, unlike traditional reserves of gold, petroleum, or grain, commodities accumulated for strategic security, this reserve would more closely resemble an active portfolio of speculative assets. The shift in language from stockpile to reserve also suggests the U.S. may actively acquire and manage cryptocurrencies rather than just holding seized tokens. Now, the crypto market, coming off its worst month since 2022, reacted instantly. Bitcoin and Ethereum surged over 10%, while Cardano spiked as much as 70%. Now, prices are coming back down, but still, we're seeing investors getting back into long positions. And attention now really turns to Friday's first ever White House Crypto Summit, where the president, along with his crypto czar David Sachs, regulators, and industry leaders will talk next steps. We'll be watching to see whether the president shares a buying strategy or plans to push this through without congressional approval. Melissa?
Interesting that the notion of an active portfolio, Mackenzie, because then, of course, somebody needs to be hired to manage this. So you've got a portfolio manager for crypto under the authority of the U.S. government.
And that's one of the biggest concerns here, that the government would be picking favorites. And yes, the choice of Cardano and Solana came as a bit of a surprise. But at the end of the day, these 5 tokens that are in this reserve are on the top 10 market cap list. And Cardano and Solana offer faster and cheaper alternatives than Bitcoin and Ethereum with respect to facilitating payments. The president also has a connection to both of those blockchains. Solana is the blockchain that he used to build his meme token. Meanwhile, you've got XRP. Ripple is the team behind that token. They donated $5 million in the XRP token to Trump's inaugural fund. So he has ties to some of these tokens that we're seeing show up here.
What stands as a marker of serious intent is the proposed establishment of a crypto strategic reserve by President Trump, which further cements the legitimacy of digital currencies. This reserve will specifically embrace Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, XRP, and Cardano, positioning these assets as significant players in the global economy. This initiative comes as no surprise, with capital flowing from major economies, as Saylor noted. That capital is coming from overseas. It's coming from China, from Russia, from Europe, from Africa, from Asia. But before going any further, if you made it this far into the video, thank you. These videos take a lot of effort and time to make, so if you enjoyed them, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. This goes a long way in helping us grow. That said, back to the video.
Going up slightly today, but still well below those record levels north of 108, 109,000. Strategy's Michael Saylor speaking at the FII Institute's Bitcoin Town Hall earlier this afternoon. That stock, formerly MicroStrategy, down as Saylor dove into the company's crypto approach. CNBC's Mackenzie Sagalos joins us now for the highlights of the Saylor speech. Mackenzie, what can you tell us?
So, Dom, Michael Saylor's Bitcoin talk in Miami today was very much focused on how the digital asset is the ultimate form of economic energy, calling it a profound breakthrough in property rights and wealth preservation. Now, he emphasized that in today's financial system, Bitcoin, alongside the U.S. dollar, is one of the few assets that truly avoids risk. Institutional investors have certainly started to buy in, tripling their holdings of spot Bitcoin ETFs last quarter, pushing the total market cap of these funds to $115 billion, something that Saylor called a revolution in finance. Now, the Bitcoin ETF launch did shatter records as one of the most successful in ETF history, and the pipeline isn't slowing down. New funds combining Bitcoin exposure and options are expected later this year. Still, shares in Strategy ended the session down more than 4.5%, and they're off more than 18% in the last month. Now, that's as Saylor reaffirmed his company's aggressive Bitcoin buying strategy, raising $42 billion, half equity, half debt, solely for Bitcoin purchases. Strategy stock has dropped alongside crypto as Trump trade euphoria fades and investors shift focus to the Fed's caution on inflation and stalled rate cuts.
So, what does this flurry of activity mean for investors? With Saylor forecasting Bitcoin's sizable ascension and Strategy Inc.'s strategic decisions augmenting this vision, the growth potential appears robust. While Bitcoin might currently be valued at around $2 trillion, the enthusiasm and strategic alignments are making a compelling case for future growth. The market's response suggests that investing in digital currencies could be a transformative step forward. Could we be on the brink of witnessing a new financial era? Share your thoughts below. And finally, if you would like to know more about cryptocurrencies, or specifically Bitcoin, go ahead and click on the next video on your screen. See you there.